Hi, and welcome to AI for UX. This is the space where UX researchers and product leaders stay current with AI innovations. I'm John Whalen, the founder of Brilliant Experience. And in each installment, we speak to a founder of one of the latest AI enhanced research tools and dive into its inspiration and how it might benefit you. And ultimately think about where this whole field is headed. So I think this is a fun one. Today I'm joined by Mike Taylor, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Ask Rally, a tool that's a virtual audience simulator for synthetic market research. And just a quick note before we get started, these videos are not product endorsements, and Brilliant always pays full price for everything we use. No one's getting paid. It's just for us to learn together. So with that, thank you so much for agreeing to join us and talk to me, Mike. So I'm delighted to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here, John. I remember listening to the synthetic users one, and I found it really fascinating. So I was excited to have a talk with you as well.
Excellent. Well, yeah, let's talk about Ask Rally. So who is the target audience for Ask Rally and sort of the pain points it addresses?
We came into the market in February, and we've taken a little bit of a different approach, just based off what I was finding useful personally. And I would say that where we're quite different from the other people in the space is we're quite open with with what we do. It's not a black box. I think in synthetic users industry in general, synthetic research industry, there's a lot of like, hey, our AI is the best, or our model is the best, or we have secret data that we can't show you. That's not the approach that we've taken. I've always been quite open with my methods. I previously ran a marketing agency called Ladder, where our main thing was that we just blogged about everything that we did, and we got 60% of our customers through our blog. So when I launched Rally, I was like, okay, let's just share everything, and we've been pretty open with everyone in the industry, and happy to have a chat with anyone who's interested in synthetics. The actual product differentiation is that you can build your own audiences in the platform. You can create personas based off, a CSV or a JSON upload, which I think is really powerful. And quite a lot of the time, we're helping people just like figure out their strategy for doing that as a service as well, on top of the kind of the self-service tool. We're also priced pretty competitively, so we're at the $20 a month to $100 a month range, compared to, I think, some of the other players are much more enterprise pricing.
Got it. Thank you for that. And you covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. Thank you. Well, to people who are totally new to this, even this concept, like what even is a synthetic user, um, can you describe a scenario when someone, so I'm a UX researcher, but sort of your target audience might use Ask Rally?
The way that I was doing this before Rally was I would just ask ChatGPT. I would say, "Hey, pretend to be a customer of my product. Here's some attributes of my typical customer, and tell me if this idea is any good, or tell me which of these ads that you like, or tell me what subject line I should run with my email that I'm about to send." And I was doing that so many times that I kind of got bored of copying and pasting those personas across sessions. And I also found that when I wanted to do more of a focus group where I had, say, like 5, 10 personas all giving different opinions, the responses they gave were quite polluted between each other's answers. Like if you
Hmm.
put a vegan in the focus group, then everyone else in the focus group gets a little bit more vegan, things like that.
Hmm.
So I built a script where I could do that more at scale. Like I kept a file of individual personas that I was reusing, and then the script just asked each one of the personas individually. You can think of that as different ChatGPT sessions, and then combine the response into like a summary. So that at its core is like what we built with Rally. We've also added more stuff since then, but I would say primarily people are using it for ideation, for kind of sense checking different ideas. And I would say that it's very similar to the type of person or the type of motivation that I was seeing when I ran my marketing agency, the type of person who would say, "Oh, I'm not really sure. Let's test that." Just to get a difference of opinion. Now, it's like let's simulate that. Let's see if what the AIs think. And it might not be the final decision left up to AI, but it at least colors the conversation. And unlike an A/B test, you actually get to see what the AIs were thinking, so you can decide whether you agree with the feedback that they gave or not, and then kind of make a decision from there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to our demo when it comes. And so, well, you touched on this already in a few different ways, but you mentioned that, Ask Rally is different than some of the other its peers. And I guess I am curious just if there are other things you want to mention there and kind of how it works, but also you mentioned it's more open than a black box that others have, sort of relatively speaking. And what does that mean that
Mhm.
you're more open? And what other things are sort of unique about Ask Rally?
Yeah, good question. So we don't hide anything like the audiences in the Rally platform. Like you see like exactly what the audience is. Like you can see the individual personas. I'll show you that in a second. So you can see basically what our prompt is there. We do have a little bit of secret sauce in how we get the responses to simulate more effectively, like how we get them to sound more human, but you get to see the individual response for each persona. You don't just get a summary at the end or aggregate statistics. The other thing is that you can create your own personas in Rally, so you can prompt it and say, okay, I want my audience to fit these characteristics, these demographics, etc. And we'll go out and kind of generate that audience for you. But I think the really powerful thing is you can use your own data. So if you already have a bunch of customer interviews or you've done, a few previous focus group studies, surveys in the past. You can clone AI personas based off of those the existing research that you've done, and then you can trust the results much more than you would if it's just like, hey, run a study on our platform, but we can't really tell you where we got our personas from.
Got it. Um, and actually, I just want to keep going because it's really interesting. So, um, with a group that so we subscribe to Ask Rally and suddenly have
Mhm.
this new tool. Um, how should we think about working with a tool like yours? So I know plenty of my fellow UX researchers would say, "Oh, so you don't want us to be in business anymore? We're going to never talk to end users," and there's probably more subtlety than that. And so I wanted to see what your sort of ideal way that people might work differently might be, and maybe even who would touch these synthetic users as well. So lots of questions there, but please go ahead with how you've seen people really work effectively with your tool.
Yeah, I am very pro AI, and some people probably worry that I'll be advocating for job losses. Like I wrote a book on AI last year before I got into Rally, so like I'm definitely like really far down that road. But actually, in this specific case, I think it's complementary to existing market research. We've tried it every way possible through experimentation over the past few months since February we started this business, and I have to tell you that like the results are never as good when you're using a pure LLM than when you have your actual data that you can base the persona off, when you can ground it in something real. And LLMs are very, very good at inferring what someone might say in a specific situation, but it's a garbage in, garbage out situation. If you just purely use LLMs to create your personas, you're only going to get something like 50 to 60% accuracy is what we've seen in our testing in terms of like how well it can replicate what would really happen in real life. Whereas if you have your own data, you ground those personas in a survey that you've done, you can get like upwards of 80, 90% accuracy. And the results just come out sounding much more human. And even when those personas have to, go over questions that weren't answered in the original survey, they infer much better because they got multiple data points. They can say, okay, like given that I know this guy lives in England and that he works in AI and that he does this, 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 and he likes this, then it can approximate a much better answer than if it was just purely guessing.
Got it. And so, maybe with some of and I know you've been going since February, so reasonably new clients. Um,
Mhm.
how are you seeing people sort of changing their workflow from the way they were doing things before?
Yeah, so there's three major things that we're seeing. One is pre-study. So like before you go and do a traditional study, which costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time, we're seeing people practice with Rally and see, okay, like, do I actually want to ask the questions this way? Will I get productive responses? So that's quite useful because the cost is so low. You can do a lot of trial runs essentially before you go and validate that with the actual study. And give you a sense of like what might be interesting to find out about that study. So it lets you cross questions off your list. It also lets you kind of iterate towards better questions you might ask. The post survey is where we operate mostly, though. Once you've done a survey, you can kind of boost the ROI you get from those results, or once you've done a focus group or customer interviews. You've gone and spent a lot of money and time to interview these people, but there are always questions that you didn't get to ask. And you always have follow-up questions. You can't just go and run that survey again and track down those people again. So what you can do with synthetics, which is quite nice, is you can run the survey, kind of ask the main questions you need to ask. But then when the CEO says, "Hey, well, what would they think about this?" And okay, we've changed the landing page now, or we've changed the way you sign up. Can we run the new sign up process past people? If you ground those personas base in what they said before, they're going to give much more productive answers. And you can basically increase the ROI, increase the number of insights you get from your existing research. Then the third thing, which I think is more, it's really just our aggressive early adopters, like power users, is doing things that you otherwise couldn't have done, like injecting customer research into processes where it would just be too expensive or not feasible. We have people who have set up N8N automations. N8N is like Zapier or one of these kind of automation tools. And they'll like, for example, like every time they post on LinkedIn or every time they launch a Facebook ad, it will be running through a virtual panel to get feedback as to whether they should publish that ad or not, like whether there's a problem with it, whether it's on brand, whether there's some, bad reaction to it, or just helping you choose between the ones that you should launch. And in particular, I think people who are using a lot of AI to generate more creative ideas, then they have too many creative ideas now that they need to filter down because you can only launch, so many Facebook ads each week, or you can only launch so many blog posts or whatever each week before you saturate your audience. You want to know which ones are the right ones to launch. So we're seeing a lot of people using Rally as kind of a filtering mechanism
Hmm.
to edit out like the worst variations and make sure that they're always publishing something that's good.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it makes. I think it makes a lot of sense to say what might give us a directionality of what real humans would think, and
Yeah.
how can I sort of scale what I'm doing. Okay. The last thing I want to ask before I know we just need to show what we're talking about, but one last question is, I in my class where I teach, AI for customer research, I get a lot of questions about, well, how human are these things, or how do you measure that, and so I guess I was really wondering how you go about that. Do you think there should be any sort of standard? I don't know. I find it very hard to measure what good or even great is, and so how do you all think about that?
Yeah, so I think that's why I've had so much fun in this space because previous, I was running a performance marketing agency, right? We had 50 people, we were spending a ton on ads, and I'm very, very used to measurement and optimization. And then after I left the marketing agency, I then became a prompt engineer. So I was, back in 2020, I was like messing around with GPT-3, and I've been kind of carrying that onwards and working really full time in AI engineering since then. So again, there's a lot of testing, a lot of evaluation, figuring out, for things that are hard to evaluate, like, is this response human enough? It's a pretty tough thing to evaluate. Is this response too sycophantic? Like one of the reasons why you wouldn't use
Hmm.
ChatGPT for this
Yeah.
is that, like your mother, it would just always tell you your ideas are great, and that's not always what you want to hear. It's not particularly productive. So we've trained our LLMs to be much less sycophantic. They will roast you and tell you your idea is not great in some cases. And they sound a lot more human than you would typically get from an AI. So yeah, we put most of our effort into testing and optimization, and we have a number of different evaluation metrics that help us figure out whether we're doing a good job.
Got it. Well, yeah, super curious. And I know that in the product innovation space, where I teach my class, the number one class right now is about evaluations of AI flows.
Mm,
And so the evals are so critical. And I think that's sort of hitting the mark here too. Um,
yeah.
well, we've talked about it enough. If you I can work on the technology here. Maybe you can set the stage for what are we about to see, and you could just take a few moments to show us how it works.
Yeah, so you're about to see Ask Rally, which is our simulation tool. We have first of all a number of audiences in the platform, so I'll just bring that up. But we have some preloaded ones that you might want to use. This is my test account, so I've got hundreds, as you can imagine. But we have like a Hacker News audience, for example, that's based off real Hacker News users that we cloned based off their quotes. We also have some LLM generated ones, like this is for technology professionals. We've been working early on with Every Media, so we have the Every Media audience as well. We also have created a lot of our own personas. So, we have like the Launch 64 and the Launch 126. These are the people that we cloned from the first initial people who gave us customer interviews for our product. So again, we're using our own product, dog fooding it for this situation. This is like 126 personas based off actual user interviews. And then that means that I don't have to keep going back to those people every time and bother them with every little idea that pops into my head.
Mike,
Yeah,
I have a quick question already. Thank you. It's really interesting.
yeah.
So in some tools you make a synthetic user, or you might test 10 or 15 or something. So
Mhm.
this has many. What's your
Yeah.
recommendation in terms of like numbers, and why do you have many in yours?
Yeah, so I would say that we started off with audiences of 100, and that was the initial kind of goal that we thought would be really useful because we wanted to do a lot of statistical testing and seeing, okay, like would you click on this ad? And actually, my own usage has drifted quite far away from that. So, like, here's an example of a new audience that I just created. This is based off we're actually kind of building our own panel at the minute. But these names are anonymized. But you can see, we it's just 13 people in this one, and the reason why, and you'll see this in a second, is I'm finding that like looking into the individual responses is much more productive. Than doing aggregates kind of statistical testing. There's a couple of reasons behind that, but I think the main reason is that LLMs are very, very good at predicting what people might say because that's what they've been trained to do. They've been trained off what everyone has said on the internet. But I would say that they're less good at predicting specifically what people have done or will do. And I think that's a really important point, actually. We have to remember the limitations here. One of the biggest problems we see with our customers is when they ask things like, you know, have you used a Chrome extension in the past week? The LLMs tend to be quite far off with those answers because they don't have bodies, right? They're not real. They're just making that part up, right? So there's just like less training data for that. And so for us, like we've gone less around like, would you click on this ad? because I think that correlates a lot less with real world performance, and much more like, what do you think about this ad, or like, what do you think about this idea? And then we're looking at the actual individual reasons they gave, and we're trying to just anticipate what the reaction might be if we were to proceed with that idea that we're evaluating.
Cool. Thank that's really helpful. And so, yeah, I'll get you back on track and let you kind of
Yeah.
work through a flow. This sounds very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is like one of the one of the personas. You can see some basic information, have a deep background here. Let me just think it's this one. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, so they have a background, quite a lot of detail in here. This prompt is condensed down from lots of from the whole transcript of the interviews, and we have a prompt that basically does that condensing process really well. So you can upload a CSV with a lot of information, and it will bring it down to like just a specific couple of paragraphs of text that make the prompt much more predictive, but without being too expensive to run. So let me just start a chat. And I don't know if you have any specific suggestions, something you want to ask, but I can come up with something if not.
No, I think you can take it away.
Cool. So, we have all the different model providers, for example, OpenAI, Google, Meta. I tend to use Google a lot. We also have Smart Mode, which uses the more powerful models, but it's actually not usually needed. And then you can ask really anything. So it's like a ChatGPT style interface, but each individual persona in here is going to get the prompt that you ask. So you're not necessarily talking to a group that all know each other and talk to each other. You're really just talking, creating 13 different individual sessions here. So let's just say, I'm going to launch a new product in the wellness space. It takes an hour each day, but it boosts your cognitive ability by 20%. Would you do that? Like, what would your concerns be? Um, you know, uh, uh, what would you do that extra time? Cool. So just gonna submit that. And the reason why I'm asking in this way is just that I want to get a sense of what are the different things that people would say if I was going to launch this product, right? I'm trying to anticipate the positives and the negatives. And you can see it comes back quite quickly. There's a combined response here, which is basically looking at all 13 responses and bringing them together. And it's saying there's a general skepticism about the time commitment of an hour daily and the perceived legitimacy of the cognitive boost. The funny thing here is that the product I'm talking about is just getting an extra hour of sleep each night. It does boost your cognitive ability, right? So, these guys think that would be a scam, right? So, it's really really important that you anticipate these things ahead of time. How would you describe your product like you could try now describing it in a different way and seeing if you get less skepticism. Now let's look into the individual responses. Um,
And
yeah,
Mike, oh, so
go ahead.
sorry. A quick question is, so effectively, this is like you've interviewed, I guess it was 13 of these
Yeah,
synthetic users. So they basically haven't heard what the other one said. Is that, or conceptually?
exactly. They're all
Okay.
individual, and you can see that in the responses here. So, this guy's like saying, Connor Bennett saying an hour a day for 20% cognitive boost. Not sure. It's a lot of time, especially with teaching and everything else. And if you click on his thing here, he is a high school teacher. So that's consistent. Does cognitive ability mean I grade papers faster? I'm not sure. Yeah, so from this, I would take away how I need to describe what I mean by cognitive ability, like make it more real for people. So I would think about that. And this guy's saying he'd want to relax more. That makes sense. This person's a little bit less happy. It sounds like a load of bull, right? You don't get that type of response from ChatGPT quite often. And you can look into like his profile. He talked about playing video games. Which I don't know if it's in here. Yeah, oh yeah, occasional video game or local event. So that makes sense. You can keep going through these, but you can see the responses. They're all quite different. It's like quite a diverse set of results, and some of them are happier, some of them are less happy. One of the things we can do here is we can add options as well. So we can say like, do you like, would you pay $20 for this? Or let's say actually, do you think $20 is a good price for this? You could say yes, $100, that's a buy or be interested. No, I don't believe it. Or we can maybe have a third option. It's like, I think it's worth more, and just see what they say. And we're going to get them actually voting on these different things now and get individual responses alongside those votes. And the reason why it's quite useful to do that is it just kind of forces a bit more of a decision. And then you can look at like the positives and the negatives. So yeah, people are overwhelmingly positive towards the $20 price point, but not everyone voted for it. And you can click and see the individual ones here. So, like, Eugene, who was really skeptical before, says, "No, I don't believe it." He said it looks like some pyramid scheme garbage, right? So you can go through and kind of filter these. All of this is exportable. You can export the full thing into Google Sheets or CSV, and then you can also kind of do more interesting analysis as well afterwards. Like quite often, I'll then kind of especially if I've been doing a lot of questions, get like an overall summary of the findings to that session. So
It,
yeah, that's how it works.
cool. And is it's yeah, so different. So is there an approach that you sort of recommend to your subscribers, or I guess the other question I have is, do the questions asked earlier affect the questions later? So do I have to sort of be careful in my sequencing?
Yeah, so this is like a chat session where when they're answering this question, they have just their memory of what they answered to the previous session. This is in order, and therefore, yeah, you can change the results by kind of asking different questions in
Mm.
different orders. But once you're out of the session, then you're done. You can just go and create another session if you want. So you can go to the new one, and then those memories are wiped for this new session. One other thing you can do, which is quite cool, is you can add memories to the chat. So you can say like, I don't know, Donald Trump just enacted tariffs of 200% on I don't know, Cheetos, right? And then that will be a memory that goes into each individual persona, and that will change how they answer. So I would say memories is really a lot of the key to more some of the more advanced use cases with LLMs. With synthetic research, because inserting different memories and saying, okay, you read this article, now would you be interested in buying this product? Or your friend told you this, now would you be interested? Simulating those different timelines. I think like that's where like the more sophisticated use cases come from. We have an API where it would be a little bit onerous to do that fully manually through the platform, but we have a lot of people writing scripts to like automatically insert memories and then do crazy stuff with that.
A couple different questions. So one is when I'm literally getting started, so I just subscribe. Are you helping the subscribers to build these personas, or is there sort of a tool for that in the system?
Yeah, so in the system you can go and create your own audience. We have a lot of information on our blog. So Reese, my co-founder, does a great job in documenting that. He also works on our services. So when we're working with like a lot of the times it's marketing agencies and
Hmm.
they want like to say, okay, I've got this goal with this client. Like, can you kind of walk me through how you would approach it? Then sometimes we'll build those audiences for you. But you can create your own audience in here. We have this prompting tool where you can just describe the audience and say, I don't know, let's just say US parents of teens 15 to 18. We have an enriched description prompt here, which will take the description that you have and just fill it out with much more demographic information based on what the LLMs know. So you can see like household incomes, etc. These household incomes would be different if we said UK instead of US, for example. And it's filled in quite a lot there. And then you can hit generate, and it will, based on this description, generate the different personas in here. So that's kind of
Hmm.
the just using LLMs if you don't have any of your own data. We also have the cloning tools as well, which is, what I was talking about, where you can kind of fill in like the ones I made where we had user transcripts.
Hmm.
And you can do that by like pasting in the transcript here and then hit clone and it'll create the persona, or you can do it through CSV upload as well.
I see. Okay, cool. Um, so some groups we work with are sort of big enterprise, so they'd have,
Mhm.
I don't know, 3,000 interviews. What do you
Yeah.
recommend they do in that situation?
Yeah, for larger enterprise, typically, uh, they like getting extra support makes a lot of sense. So we've done some work with large agencies like Dentsu, and we've done some custom work for big brands as well. So yeah, we do. We can actually support that. Especially it helps that I used to run a marketing agency, so I know how to handle that sort of stuff. But yeah, I would say it just really depends on the makeup of your team. If you have people who have really strong opinions already on what makes a good description of your audience, and if you've got some experience with synthetics, then you can use this platform to have a lot of fun. But even in that case, quite often they just want to get in touch with us and talk to us about how we do things. Especially when they've read one of our blog posts or they see one of
Mm,
our automations and they want to jam out different ideas.
got
But
it.
yeah, like if you're unsure, like you can just always get in touch and we're always interested to see like how people are using the platform.
The other thing you mentioned is sort of concept testing, and I didn't know some groups even have like Figma prototypes and things like that, or package tests. I didn't know if
Mhm.
this is sort of a visual platform or the sort of the word-based concept is what you're thinking of there.
Yeah, we can do images. We can even do video actually as well but that's only through the Google models. So yeah, we could try.
Hmm.
Um, let's try and do an image now. Uh, Here we go. Let's just say this is our new app. Okay, and then we just attach this one here. You say, what does this app do? Uh, in your opinion after. All right, we'll see what they say.
Just while it's thinking, have you
Hmm.
started to build up sort of I don't know, recommended interview guides or kind of flows that work well in your system, or do people just sort of, like you said, sort of jam out?
Yeah, I would say that it really depends. Like if you're doing more systematic surveys and like running a professional process, I would say that all of the things that you know about survey design, UX study design. it's all going to be applicable here because essentially what LLMs are trying to do is simulate how humans would respond to those questions. So they suffer from a lot of the same biases that humans do. So yeah, this is another area where like having some actual market research expertise can go a very long way in getting good results out of this tool. We do try and share some stuff, and we try and help people, especially when we're working on a custom project for someone. We'll try and make sure that the platform, that they're asking the right questions, and that they're going to get productive answers. But I would also say that you can just experiment a lot more on this platform. Like there's no real downside for you getting the question wrong and getting bad results because you can just run it again. And we've run several questions in the past few minutes, and it cost us like pennies to do that, and we can just iterate on those questions as much as we like. And that's what's really powerful about this. Is if you're not getting productive responses, you haven't just wasted like 3 weeks of your time waiting for those responses to
Yeah.
come in.
No, it's one thing that we do. People start to realize when they try these, and the first thing in our class is that it's a relatively low risk thing, and gives you, I might say, directionality rather than sort of facts, but a way to think about these things in advance and be more efficient if I'm working with my real humans that are more expensive and time consuming. So, um,
Yeah.
are you seeing sort of expansion? I sort of imagine, for example, designers or engineers or product people, really sort of a wider swath than just the marketing team getting involved in this kind of thing. I don't know if we're there yet or if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I would say actually a lot of our customers are like founders or CEOs, especially of smaller companies where they not traditionally doing market research or don't, kind of can't wait for it. And Yeah, it's actually the traditional market researchers that are a little bit harder to convert over to AI. I don't know if that's a self-preservation thing or not, but yeah, like if you post anything about synthetic research on LinkedIn, you get a ton of hate, unfortunately. I don't know if you noticed that,
Mm-hmm.
but that's fine. I think once they see that it's not a real threat to them, and it's somewhat of like an additional service that they could offer that might even get them more budget and more make their results more useful to the wider organization, then I think that they'll come across to that. Like we have one client that we're doing a project for at the end of the month, and part of the delivery is that we're going to hook this up into their Teams channels. The wider organization will be able to like go at Ask Rally and then ask a question. And we think that that's really going to democratize a lot of what they're trying to do. And that means that, they're not, it's not just a case of like the market research team does a study, sends the PDF or sends the presentation, and then, maybe some people will read it. Instead, like now you can make it more of a living document where, it can help guide decisions, even, quite far down the line.
Yeah, we're finding the same thing. And interestingly, when the more senior people start to use these tools, they get more interested in the human research than they might have been otherwise. I'm like, if this is true,
Yeah.
this would be really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Are there other things? I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to show off, or demonstrate the key parts that you wanted to. Is there anything else you wanted to hit here, or should we move on?
No, I think that's it. I would say that the tool is really designed as a self-service platform, and for directional type of results. Like if you have a bigger use case, like you were saying with some of your clients, they have thousands of user interviews, or if you need the accuracy to be extremely tight, then I think that we have a lot of extra kind of gadgets at our disposal to make that work for specific use cases. We run a process we call calibration, where we can take in some input data,
Oops.
data set, and then we can optimize to that so that we we're making sure that the personas actually respond and replicate the results that you got previously. And that necessarily is like more of a enterprise type deal because it's usually the big enterprises that have a lot of existing research that needs agreement. And so this tool I would say is more for startups, more for early stage companies, more for like employees who are doing this solo and kind of having to make a lot of small decisions. But yeah, there's also like the other end of the scale.
My last sort of general question, then I really want to learn a little more about you and what inspired you to do this. But
Yeah.
um, some folks are asking about both qualitative kind of things like what we're doing here, and others are like, hey, should this be something that allows a full survey and get sort of survey at scale with synthetics? And so, what's your
Mhm.
thought on that, or sort of does that make sense, or are there things that you are trying to do there?
Yeah, we have done a lot of projects like that. I would say that like I was saying before, the LLMs are not that good at like predicting actual user behavior. So we did a bunch of studies on Hacker News and tried to like our Hacker News audience actually responds quite well, like a Hacker News like commenter would. And they like if you spend any time on that website, there's like a specific brand of of comment that you get,
Mm-hmm.
which is a little bit rough. But like importantly, it wasn't very good at predicting what was going to trend that day. Because there's so many different factors in real life, all the way from like, if there's just like something trending on another platform, then there'll be some splash over to Hacker News. So I think that I wouldn't recommend going into synthetics if your goal is to like predict actual kind of commercial results. Instead, I would say it's much more qualitative. And I know that there are other people in the industry that are going much more quant, but we are actually coming the other way. We started quant and we're scaling back because I found that like at least it could be just a skill issue on my behalf. Maybe we haven't cracked it yet and they have, but I would say that it's actually pretty easy to say like to show that you got high accuracy on a specific thing. But then it doesn't generalize at all to other domains. What we're finding is much more useful personally in terms of changing our minds and actually leading to real decisions is the qualitative analysis. And I think there's something cultural there as well. Like I used to work as, like the type of marketing we did was like very close to data science, and I know how to code. I'm come from an economics background, so I'm very very familiar with all the quant stuff, and I've made a lot of decisions and influenced a lot of decisions with it. But as soon as you get into quant, you get into a scenario where like the people there are like very very serious about accuracy, and that's like their whole job is to be as credible as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that like LLM based research can hold up to that credibility. At those levels. Like if it's important enough to do a quantitative study, then you should just go do a quantitative study.
Got it.
If it's just directional feedback you want and you want qualitative kind
Mm-hmm.
of understanding of like how people might react to something so you can anticipate it, then this is perfect for what you're doing.
Got it. No, it's a very thoughtful response, and I appreciate it. We're all learning.
Yeah.
Well, let me turn to you a little bit, actually. So, we've touched on a little bit your sort of economic background and becoming a prompt engineer for a period of time.
Mhm.
So, still, it's a lot of work to go from zero to a product. So what inspired you to create this and for this field?
Yeah, good question. So I was trying to build several different AI products over the past few years. Yeah, anyone who runs an agency or works in consulting will tell you that they kind of fantasize about having like a technology product that they can make money while they sleep. They don't have to be on call. So yeah, I'm no different in that respect. And even when we were at the agency, I was always building products. Like we had a team of 6 developers on staff. And and two data scientists. So we were always doing our own internal stuff. But yeah, when it came to the new year, I realized there was just a really big problem that I would go and I'd try and launch a new product, and I would think it was a good idea, and I would send it out there into the world. I'd do like a prototype, and then at most I would get like 10 people interested in talking to me. I'm like, like, especially as a technical person, quite often I'm thinking like,
Hmm.
how do I even find people who are interested in my
Sure.
product? And I'm a marketing expert, as in, like I used to run a marketing agency, but that was all like very large scale marketing. That's like, spending 50 million a month on Facebook ads. That's very different from like, hustling to get someone to like pay attention to your product and like landing a customer into you for the first time. Yeah, I found that process very, very hard, and I think that's what really inspired me to get more into this domain because I knew that the answer was more market research and like understanding like doing customer interviews. I knew that the answer was going to do surveys to kind of anticipate what types of opportunities there are out there and like what products are destined to fail before you launch them to save me engineering time. And but the problem was that doing market research is really tough, especially as an outsider, especially as not someone who like you have a PhD, like I don't have a PhD.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things that come naturally to you, and it's like part of academic culture. Like people who haven't done market research just have no idea that these tools exist.
Hmm.
And I still remember when I found out what Van Westendorp pricing
Sure.
analysis was.
Hmm.
And I was like blown away. I was like, wait, hold on, you can actually like figure out what the right price is to charge. I thought everyone was making it up, and that's what I was doing, just making it up every time. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think like more people should be doing market research, and hopefully AI can really democratize that.
Cool. Well, actually, this is good because we're starting to speak to the future. So I am really interested because, by definition, because you got a product, you have to. So for a Canadian analogy, you have to think about where the puck is going, not where it is now. And so, um, so where do you see Ask Rally in the next while? And also, how do you see this whole research enterprise evolving because
Yeah.
of what's happening in AI?
Yeah, good question. I think for Rally in particular, the number one thing we hear from people is, well, how do I trust the results? And how can I know that like the direction it leads me in is the correct one? And the answer is just it's as good as the data that you put in to some degree. We're finding that like almost nobody has data though. And if they do, it's like not in the right format or they didn't get approval to use it for this purpose. The big thing that we're focusing on now is taking some of the stuff we've learned from services and kind of doing this for other people, and then just building our own panel. We've done some experimentation with that and getting good results there. In the near future, pretty soon you'll be able to join up with Ask Rally, and like you wouldn't have to make your own audience. We'd have an audience that's based off real people, and we would just let you select those people to add to your panel. You like we've already kind of done a lot of the hard work there. Like you don't have to
Hmm.
go and figure out how to create a good audience with good data. So I think that's going to be a big change. The other thing is we're going to let people use some of the tools that we've been using internally to optimize and evaluate. We're going to expose some APIs and things like that for people who want to go really deep into the weeds with this as well. And that's kind of a continuation of that open nature that we try and strive for, and just not kind of black boxing all this stuff. And then in general, I think where it's going, I'm following the vibe coding trend quite a lot, like especially as someone who learned how to code quite recently, like in the past 10 years. Um, and came from a marketing background. When I left the agency in 2020, I then started to seriously learn how to code at full time, and it's a tough process, but AI makes it a lot easier now, and it's probably the best time in history to
Hmm.
go and build something, which is really exciting. But what I'm seeing is that now that bottleneck has been removed and you can go and build whatever you want, there's a new bottleneck arising, which is you don't know what to build. People are getting flooded with all of
Hmm.
these products entering the marketplace, and how do they differentiate between each other, right? Like who knows? Like if you have one new CRM launching each year, then you just don't need to decide whether that CRM is good or not. But if people can launch like 15 a month, then it's all going to get lost in the sea of of the market. So. I think that this shift towards market research is going to happen over the next few years. People are going to get really deep into market research, I think, as a way of identifying segments of the market that are underserved, that they can go and vibe code a tool to solve that problem. And
Yeah.
also to kind of help figure out ways they could differentiate themselves from the sea of
Hmm.
sameness that's rolling out across everything. So yeah, I think my hope is that with tools like Rally and some of the other people in our space, it's going to be much easier for people who don't have an academic background or don't haven't ever run a study. They'll be
Yeah.
able to use this as like really like a gateway drug into the whole world of market research.
Fair enough. It does make sense that to better serve your audience is a way to stand out. So, well, I do want to make sure if people have gotten interested now in Ask Rally, how can they get started or give it a try? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so if you go to askrally.com, you can sign up. If you scroll down on the sign up page, you can click skip and use it for free for a bit. You don't have to pay straight away, but yeah, the cost is $20 a month for the basic version, and that gives you enough messages to mess around with. And then it's $100 a month if you want to use the other models like Google, which is the one I use. And if you want to access that cloning feature that I talked about, where you can, take your data and then put it into the personas, then you need the $100 plan. So yeah, it's still
Hmm.
pretty. That might change, especially now we're investing a bit more into primary research and building our own
Mm.
panels. That might change, but yeah, that's we're also a pretty new company. We're experimenting. So yeah, like hopefully you'll be along for the ride, and yeah, also check out our blog on the website. Even if you don't use our tool, should be some interesting information in there. We run a lot of experiments and share the results.
Very cool. Well, I know we just have to end at some point. So thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it and for sharing Ask Rally with us. And I'll just go ahead and close this out. But I really appreciate your openness and clear sense of adventure and thoughtfulness in trying to serve a lot of people. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, everyone, that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and keeping up with the latest AI for UX. And please subscribe and let us know in the comments if there are other things you'd like to see next. And wishing everyone brilliant insights with AI.